Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, everyone. This is Heroes of the Storm, the podcast all about... Did I say Heroes of the Storm? This is Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm getting my words mixed up already into this very professional 155th episode of this here podcast. Hey, everyone. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. He's Kyle Fergusson. He hasn't screwed up his job yet.
Not yet. Sometimes I'm muted. You know, it's always a bit of a gamble, but you got the game right today, and that's what counts.
That is good. That is good. Back in the day when we were doing StarCast... Anytime I wanted to say the word StarCraft, I would accidentally say the name of our podcast, like in normal in casual conversation.
Naturally.
That was always fun. That was a good time. But I'm feeling...
It's okay if your mind is a little switched around this week. There's a couple of games out. There's a couple of announcements going on, too.
There's so much happening if you're a Blizzard fan right now. It's ridiculous. I'm gonna lead into what seems like a complete non sequitur personal anecdote, but it was the worst week ever for me to get a new puppy, Kyle. But I am being pulled in 3 million different directions. It seems like, and 2 million of those are just by this damn Chihuahua that we got.
There is something. Well, they get comfortable, right? And then they want to test their bounds once they sort of figured out the house. I had this bully of a cat, Butters. He was missing a bit of his ear.
Yeah.
He ended up actually dying in a raccoon fight. He was just this kind of cat. He was sweet, laid on my lap, never touched my lap again once we got home. Still love the guy, but kind of like that guy who'd give you noogies like an older brother. Yeah. In chat room, you're not wrong either. Even like outside of Blizzard, like remove Blizzard from the scenario. There's a lot of stuff just happening if you're a gamer. If you enjoy video games, which I realize is a podcast about Heroes of the Storm. It is supposed to be laser focused, but darn it, Kyle and I are human too. We grew up as gamers, and let's be honest, I'm a little excited for Zelda. I'm a little excited. I don't have a pre-order. It turns out even if I did, it might not be honored because it looks like Jocelyn's not getting hers till the end of the month. But I'm just sitting here with the new Zelda on the horizon, having not beaten a Zelda since Twilight Princess, realizing I'm totally ready for a new Zelda game. Sweet. And
then there's GDC, and then there's Horizon Zero Dawn, and Mass Effect's coming out at the end of the month. And goodness gracious, Kyle, we got a balance update of gargantuan proportions this week in Heroes of the Storm. We're going to talk about that in news. And if you're at home and you mildly glanced at it, you're probably thinking to yourself, guys, there's been much bigger patches than this. But no, the specific heroes that have been messed with in this patch. Big changes this week. Big changes. But before we get into that, there's gratitude required, Kyle. There's thank yous that must be sent out. There's warm, fuzzy feelings that I just want to share with our community. Because last Saturday, you and I showed up alongside 8 other very talented Heroes of the Storm podcasters and took part in the second ever Heroes Charity Brawl. And it went pretty well.
It went all right. We smashed our goal, our meme goal of 3230 with 5,000 for Make-A-Wish. And that was awesome. It was great to see so many people. We made it on the front page of Twitch there. It was an exciting time.
Yeah, it's it went crazy well. I was so I just felt so like lucky to be included because something happened along the way. Somewhere in the middle of realizing I was never going to make it on your team and I was just going to get my ass handed to me by you for the entire event, where I just stopped being angry and I realized, Kyle, that past Garrett, the past version of me that was listening to the podcast in college thinking, man, these guys just sound like they're having fun, sound like they're having a great time. I respect the living hell out of all these guys. would have killed to be a part of that. Like, I'm in the middle of it being like, oh my God, I'm hanging out with all these people that I have a ton of respect for, and it doesn't matter that I'm losing, and we're raising money for kids, and holy crap, why am I even here? I did no work for this event, Kyle. I just showed up.
That's good enough, man. You brought your audience to it. I mean, it was a fantastic time. You know, I walked away maybe a little guilty, certainly about the raid boss one. I apologize. I'm extremely proud of my performance on Green Moon. But
dude,
you know, I feel like I owe an apology to Scott Johnson, but not the kids. You know, I did on the Blackheart's Bay. Every time he died, they'd give out codes. So I farmed him a little bit in the end when I shouldn't have.
You were doing it for the kids, Kyle.
I did it for the kids, right?
You were murdering one of our favorite podcasters for the kids.
I had a great time doing it.
Yeah. No, it was at this point, now that it has happened twice, I think it's just now tradition that you're going to be a raging jerk in the raid boss game, whether you are playing a raid boss or being a good guy.
Right, whichever side. It was fun. You know,
whoever.
I
will like to say though, because you know everyone was cheering on for Garrett Rage, and I feel like I didn't deliver. I'm not going to give rage, but I'm going to give a little salt. Whoever's idea it was for double support, for the good guys team, knowing full well that the raid bosses had no support whatsoever, you're a horrible person.
All right, I am.
Oh, it was you. Oh.
I'm a horrible person.
Okay, all right then. Well, you're a terrible person, Kyle.
Yeah, well, I expected the Cho'Gall, so I made my guys go double support for my Gray main because I'm thinking just massive giant killer, crazy burst damage. I can make up for the support. We have Malfuria and Lily too, so Lily's pumping some pretty good damage. And the second we got in there, I told my guys, these guys have no support, so any damage you do them is permanent. Just lay it on whenever you see them. And that team without a support required the strategy of sort of hiding in a bush and just bursting on the scenes. And sadly, that wasn't what transpired, and snowballs happen, and once supports get ahead, then there was no game left.
Yeah. It was rough. It was very rough, but at least we won trivia, I guess.
Yeah, you did crush us in trivia.
So there was that. I guess I'll take it. But anyways, if you want to see the success with your own eyeballs, you can still go to harrischaritybrawl.com. Donations are closed, I believe, but you can go over there and witness with your own eyeballs the fact that we shattered a $3,000+ goal with a $5,000+ funds raised for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Everyone who gave money, you are all freaking awesome. Unless it was Kyle. Unless Kyle gave money, that one person is still a jerk for going double support with a Gray main.
Every story needs a villain.
Every story does. Well, all right, we got a lot to cover today, so let's get into it. This week's Heroes of the Storm news.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Point me to the stage.
Stay a while and listen.
All right, we got that balance update, Kyle. And goodness gracious me. We're starting on we got to start this news on a somber note, Kyle, because a hero that you and I both
I feel almost guilty even reading these notes. People are probably so sick of hearing about this guy.
But from us?
Yes.
Yeah, well, deal with it.
It ends today. That's not true.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm already a little tired of taking tower shots on my Ty-Cuss.
Yeah.
So Ty-Cuss, a hero, which Kyle and I unanimously agree on is one of our favorites, has been neutered, man. They took him to the vet. They said, "This is my dog Ty-Cuss. I'm sick of him lifting his leg on the tanks." And sorry, not the tanks, but everyone else but the tanks. And Blizzard obliged by removing very important anatomy. His basic attack range was decreased, Kyle, by a full factor of 1, from 5.5 down to 4.5. I've played him since the change. In quick match, I still feel like I'm totally capable of punishing those who make mistakes against me. That being said, I noticed myself getting hit by a lot of tower shots. Can't really dive. Can't secure nearly as many kills as I could before as Ty-Cuss. And you and I played a game just before the show, and I was noticing the exact same thing happen. So I was just like, cool, it's not just me. I'm not the only one who's just like, holy crap, this range seems short.
It's going to be a mix-up, and every time they mess with Anubarak's health, he goes through a trial period, and still one of our top winningest heroes at the moment. Something like this, messing with a ranged assassin. They took him from Vala range to Zarya range. And that's pretty destructive by itself. And then they went on top of that and targeted his level 1 talent, pressed the advantage, and cut another 0.4 off the range of that. So you are not able to poke that back. Ty-Cuss is basically, through this action, removed as a just sort of generic first pick, which is neat. It's kind of healthy. You know, I'm sure it was really frustrating for Zagara, who I would sort of dash inward on and then have the superior range to fire through the front line and hit her in the back. Maybe it doesn't seem the right tactical decision for the tank buster to be making.
No, and that's all well and good. And honestly, the rest of these adjustments, I'm fine with. Although, honestly, some of these adjustments are buffs, like overkill. You are incentivized to use Q a lot more because your basic attacks really leave you out. They leave you exposed if you're using basic attacks on Ty-Cuss. Odin got a attack range increase as well. But
which is cute, right? Because now you say, I took Ty-Cuss maybe a little too early, and we need to make up some of that range poke damage. We go Odin instead of the laser when we're not holding points and stuff like that. The weird thing is that overkill, while it was previously used as a sort of a ending chase mechanic or lane clear, is now very much about the lane clear, and you're going to use it to readjust. In fact, you're also in a really weird place now because that's the stuff, the level 13, almost essential talent to Ty-Cuss that gave him minigun heals as it went. Minigun dealing bonus damage, that bonus damage applied as health to you, and you would, of course, take with that in the rhythm. The more you get stacks, the longer it lasts. Now, talent diversity is shined down on Ty-Cuss, and that's kind of exciting. You know, a real shame to just lose the build for many of us that were doing that, but, you know, Dash level 1 is in a decent place. This makes things like bigger they are. That increases your percent damage done, but doesn't increase the duration of minigun. Now that minigun applies the heal on the end instead of over time, you actually get a bigger heal going bigger they are, whereas in the rhythm will push you into a danger zone of actually doing too much damage for too long and never actually receiving said heal.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm honestly, I'm fine. I'm totally fine with that's the stuff getting nerfed in the way it did. It's just that combined with the extreme range reduction in both the baked in and the level 1 talent. There's some growing pains. There's some growing pains.
There are many times where that's the stuff, and I need it now as you scream, and they're just standing in your face, and you're trying to 1v1. It's a huge blow to that, certainly. Neo Steel Coding, though, taking its spell armor at level 13 from 50 to 75, that's kind of neat.
Good, because you're going to be in the front absorbing everything.
Yeah.
If you're attacking anything. And that sounds like, obviously, a little salty. Love the hero. Now plays completely different. To the point of where I'm not sure when I want to take him anymore. But that does make sense, right? If you're going to reduce the range, this is a character that's going to be up in the face of the opposing team, cool. Give him some hefty spell armor so he can do that on purpose and fulfill a role of absorbing spells.
And it's tough with the still reworked or recently buffed Sonya in the game, too, because now that range is reduced, so she's up in your face even closer, getting some heals. So some of his old obvious counters are leaking away, and win rates on heroes like Sonya, Diablo, etc. are going up as Ty-Cuss falls down about 5%, according to Hot Slogs.
Yeah, it's a little rough. I mean, Overkill got buffed. That helps, but I don't think it helps enough.
He is now a later pick.
Yes, he is. Moving on to another hero that I've recently spent a lot of time learning and have been punished for doing that. Varian. Down 3.5% on hot slogs, Kyle.
That's not as much as you might think, given that Warbringer completely lost its stun. This was the level 4 option to give his charge a stun in the first place. Now increases the slow amount by 10 whopping percent. Still gives you the cooldown reduction. So you get lots of charges. They're just not going to stun anybody.
Is it weird that I'm actually kind of excited about this change?
No, not at all.
Even though I feel like I have to go back and kind of like relearn. You have to learn nuance with this hero. This is a hero before I felt like you didn't need to have any nuance because you just keep stunning and things generally work out.
Right, as long as you understood the concept of not stacking your CCs, waited for your charge to end, then taunt, you were in a good place.
Yeah, exactly. So I love Twin Blades of Fury a lot. When it first came out, I just fell in love with that build. It's so much fun to just be attacking that fast all the time. You feel like a Fury Warrior. I'm getting to experience that fantasy in a MOBA setting, and it got buffed. The basic attack damage penalty has been reduced from 25 down to 20%. That's great. And then also when I'm taking taunt, if I'm thinking about a tank build for Varian, I actually consider not taking Warbringer. Which is cool.
With Shield Wall, yeah.
That excites me personally because I like Shield Wall. Shield Wall's cool.
Being protected's nice. And if you stack all those pictures together of the lovely blue swords, you can get a lot of protection done. So the build itself for Taunt hasn't gone anywhere, and it is still the most picked build for Varian. But Colossus Smash does have a bit of an upgrade as well. So we may see some diversity, and this is kind of exciting. We remove a pick from maybe the beginning of the draft, and now Varian can really kind of fill that, and is now obviously a second tank if he's going to go so.
Yes, absolutely. Still sticky. It's fine. Yep. You even got your cooldown reduced on charge. So overall, like, I think this was a pretty even-handed adjustment.
And for those maybe looking at his win rate at home and saying he was only 50%, even lower than that, why target a hero when there's 10 others below him, Alarak and Stitches, that maybe need some help out? This wasn't really about us. This was probably one of our first real targeted patches at the pro scene, stopping those early Ty-Cusses and making Varian not able to hold things so long because you have Malfurion in tow as well, or any sort of follow-up, and that long stun into taunt enabled those things further. Sulfur Smash being one of the big ones.
Yeah, this was one of the times where I was reading through the developer comments in a Heroes Balance update, and it read to me like listening to the devs on the Hearthstone team, where they talk about, too much of the same thing is just bad for the game. It feels bad, and that's kind of what they talked about when they brought up HGC. Is just like, we're seeing this too much. It's too highly contested. At least in terms of Ty-Cuss.
Right, it's a weird sort of thing. Too highly contested, but the bans are almost always the same with a Tassadar, Rag, or Falstad or something in there. But because that sort of map meta exists over the normal meta here, Varian was always available, and every comp ended up looking alike. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to another hero that should come as a surprise to no one who's getting taken down a bit. Murky. Murky has that Murky nerf that was promised last week has come through. Base health reduced. Base health regeneration reduction. Slime, the slow duration has been reduced from 8 to 6 seconds. The slime slow amount has been reduced from 25 to 20%. And March of the Murlocs now has quite the hefty cooldown. Previously 80 up to 110 seconds.
And a number of other healthy sort of talent diversity changes throughout the kit. And I, of course, say that looking at Murky, not so much as a Murky player, because a lot of this was the build, Slime Time, Slippery When Wet got a buff, so that's nice for a little bit of talent diversity. I mean, you just said on Varian, is it bad that I want to play him even more? Not at all. In fact, I think a lot of Murkies might not be so upset about this. It's sad to lose, some power, certainly. Lose that win rate, now going down to a flat 50% from his high rise of 57, but this just means he's available again. But you do have to be careful if you're a Murky player, because now that he's gone back into sort of specialist niche land, you're going to find that people often see him and go, oh, we're getting weird again, right? All right, Rexxar and Medivh, and they just They start piling on weirdness because why not? You went Murky. And he's still perfectly just a great part of a normal comp. Maybe serving as the off-tank role or a distant specialist that can get himself killed and teleport across the map.
Yeah, I really, like, one of my favorite ways to play Heroes of the Storm right now is Murky as this solo lane bribe getting jerk that's just stealing camps as much as humanly possible. Like, if your team is on board, and it got harder. You need one more stack to get a charge of bribe. It went up from 7 to 8. But still, if your whole team is on board and they're letting you get last hits with your pufferfish, oh, it feels good. Feels very good. That's one of my favorite ways to play right now. If I just want to have fun, but at the same time still feel like I'm crushing, I'm playing Murky. I like the way it feels, even after all of the pegs he has been taken down.
I agree.
So.
I certainly am happy to not have him chasing me as much with that slow reduced.
Yeah. So, Lucio, amp it up. Healing boost has been reduced by a factor of 1, 16.5 to 15.5. One whole unit there. Not surprising, right? That's a lot of healing that he was putting out. I think we were all pretty impressed with it. And he's still making you get out of dodge really fast if he's using the other aura.
Right, and just changing this a single point when you start amping it up further with more talent stacks involved, it gets big. In fact, while these are kind of nerfs in a lot of cases, he went up this week as people figure him out more and continue. He is now our top winningest support, 55% at the moment. Malfurion way below that because of a slight nerf to him as well.
Yeah. I'm still seeing Lucio everywhere. He's still extremely effective. Man, I saw Lucio earlier today in Quick Match, which I think was the most annoying Lucio I've ever played with. He was phenomenal with knocking you back by getting behind you and pushing you into his team. Like, it's the first Lucio I've ran across where it was played in that way and done very effectively.
Alarax, some good Alarax. You just don't expect them to move you into Battlefield Eternity slams or roots that have been cast rather distant away. Lucio, the majority of people picking him already have master skins that I see, particularly in Hero League. So I'm glad the supports are happy. I don't think there's anything wrong with the character. I think it's very frustrating to be swarmed by a team that doesn't make sense in another environment. 3-4 melee, all swarming around Lucio. That gets a bit much. But hey, we should have drafted Kael'thas. Maybe we didn't have a big enough front line to catch that. Maybe we need a Zagara Maw. We'll figure it out with time.
I'm so ready. I'm so ready to get back on the Zagara train, even though I picked her just for fun.
Seriously. She has what can only be considered an unhealthy win rate on Blackheart's Bay ever since Murky got nerfed, which is odd. There's a lot of changes in here, and they're all intertwining. One specialist wins are at the expense of another specialist in many ways. But Zagara, as of yesterday, had a 69% win rate with 100 games on Blackheart's Bay. And if you remember how we used to do that back in the day, the sight around the turn-in, controlling the bottom lane, it still works.
Yep, it still does. And I think she's been out of popularity long enough that people don't remember how to clear creep.
Right, and then you can even do some really cute things like that 25 armor you can take, I believe, at 13. Suddenly changing it around on Avala, who thinks she can 1v1 you with a 25% reduction in damage. Teleporting around inside of Nidus, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Malfurion getting reined in as well. Another hotly picked hero. Entangling Roots, the duration has been reduced from 1.5 to 1.25 seconds. Twilight Dream has had the mana regen reduced, the exact same actually, 1.5 to 1.25. And his level 16 talent, Tenacious Roots, has had the root duration bonus decreased from half a second to a quarter of a second.
All good to limp away from Malfurion and have him hold on to you a little shorter. In fact, one of the funny things about this Malfurion nerf, he's down to flat 50% now, no longer having any advantage. He's still a great first pick because it doesn't give away your comp. But the real winners here of Malfurion getting nerfed are kind of odd. They're like Diablo, who was big. He's a big guy. He gets trapped in anything, any sort of ground effect. So Diablo's win rate is up. We're seeing a lot of heroes with low mobility like Zul'jin suddenly having a resurgence. And likewise, Artanis has fallen because one of the easiest strats to do, particularly with a buddy, was to lay down the root and then have Artanis go for his swap into the root, so it knows exactly where it's going to be. You end up in a root on the other side.
And Ty-Cuss was a hero that loved people standing still, and that's still the case for Ty-Cuss, but he's a lot closer to you, and things can go really bad for that player much quicker.
Yeah. Odd decision to sort of target the mana regen on Twilight Dream to encourage Tranquility. I haven't enjoyed Tranquility since they fixed the bug that gave you double healing, but it was needed. It gave you the survivability to actually dance around with sirens on your head.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about it basically like the hidden power, right? That the mana regen was like this hidden power bit of it. I don't know. We're still taking it for the silence at the end of the day.
And the damage.
Yes. But I understand the trepidation, right? Like what do you do at that point? Do you touch the silence duration? Because I think if it goes even remotely lower, then you're much less incentivized to take it. I think
it's second switches. I mean, you've got a support going into melee to cast the spell with a half-second cast time too. So there's already quite a bit going against him in this scenario.
Yeah, and we're looking at a change to Malfurion, like in the same stroke, Entangling Roots and Tenacious Roots has been brought down. I mean, he's still. I would take this level of trepidation on Ty-Cuss any day of the week, but still enough changes. I think that I get the hesitation.
And it's not for us yet. Again, this is to stop those crazy combos. The variants charging in, doing their long CC chain with a root follow up.
Yep. And then finally, or no, not finally. Sorry, I forgot about Rexxar, which is actually a cool change. But Tassadar. So. Last kind of big popular hero getting touched here. Level 1, Kydarian Resonance has new functionality. The quest is Regeneration Globes grants an additional 50% mana. The first reward is after collecting 15, you increase the value of Plasma Shield by 15%. The second reward is after collecting 30, you increase the duration of Plasma Shield by 100%. And this is one of the ones where I would like to refer to the dev comments because I'm not sure we can point it out better, but they basically went and said that when they were shifting the old Kala's Embrace to a questing talent, in this case Kydarian Resonance, they had hoped to lock the immense power that was brought with it behind a barrier that was difficult to overcome on a lot of maps. And they said in theory this would make it rewarding to take on certain maps, but rarely the most powerful choice. However, they said that instead, what they found was that locking this kind of potential behind an extremely difficult globe collecting talent made for a more frustrating experience than a fun one. So that's why this change is happening to Kydarian Resonance.
Which, with the frequency he can put out shields, isn't ridiculous. You, of course, get that duration increase, too. But this does spell the end of Infinite Shield Tassadar.
Yes.
On other people. You could still probably, with Archon and all sorts of cooldown talent stuff, infinite shields on one person. But no longer will you sort of leave Zul'jin a shield and say, I'll see you in half an hour. That'll still be good for you, right?
Yes, absolutely. I was getting shielded by a Tassadar on Murky today.
That's fun.
It was delightful. And then Rexxar. He has a visual indicator now for Misha's leash range, which is super cool and is actually making me want to revisit a hero that I have openly stated on this show. When I tried to teach myself how to play him, I hated immensely. And on top of that, you can now issue Misha commands outside of her leash range. She will run to the edge of her range and leash if she attempts to go beyond that.
Which is really important because if you were running along with Misha and you want her at the furthest point, she would continually deny and come back to you. Now, as you ride together and you give her a distant command, she'll continue on as long as you're with her. So great touch up. I mean, now allowing Rexxar to really do some cute things, go to the very edge, barely grab that well while still keeping a toe on the pad, if not 2 seconds later. Rexxar is a map pick and a very, very powerful one whenever you're controlling any sort of zone. So good tool to him. He's down a little bit with this change, of course, as many people decide to try him out. So don't be dissuaded by his recent win rate.
Yeah. No, that's a good point to bring up, is when heroes like this get messed with, that it brings people like me out of the woodwork to be like, maybe now's the time to try Rexxar again.
Well, and we all do it. I mean, how many times have I gotten hipster about something? If they went through and for no reason at all nerfed Raynor, I'd still go play like a couple games on him because I'd be like in my head, yeah, now he's just for me. No one's gonna touch him. He's all mine.
That's what I was hopeful about with Ty-Cuss, but I'm not feeling it. I am feeling it with Murky though, and I am feeling it with Varian a little bit.
It's gonna take some time with Ty-Cuss. I don't think he's out at all. I think we're just gonna have to really change the way we play.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's he's a different hero now.
Sad thing about it is there's a lot of really nice looking new heroes with fancy new kits. I mean, Ty-Cuss pretty recent rework, but still, it's easy to just take that practice and move on.
Yeah. So guide us through, Kyle. There are quite a few changes here. Anything else you noticed in the stats that we have access to that should be noted?
Well, we're going to see that increase, like I mentioned, in characters with low mobility, like your Zul'jins. Your Lunar, to an extent, she moves fast, but if she gets held onto by Malfurion roots, by a Varian stun, she's dead. So you also see a little bit of an uptick in some of our spellcasters, too, as they no longer have a Varian in their face, doing a taunt and a stun after that. Interestingly enough, Kerrigan was one of the biggest winners of this patch, going up the highest in win rate, now becoming our third best assassin, or first best assassin when I'm just looking at it right now. This is an odd one. Maybe Murky was in her face. Maybe she's just low mobility on escape. So Lucio going up brought Kerrigan along for the ride. There's also the theory you could say that as you reduce the CC of one character, CC's become more valuable. Taking stun away from Varian meant that Kerrigan with a stun on her kit increases in win. So be on the lookout for those things in the future. But you do need to take a step back from some heroes as well as their counterparts. The guys holding them in your range for a long period of time, like Varian. Sergeant Hammer has gone down almost 4%.
I didn't think
as CC decreases, people are able to close on her.
That's a very good point. I didn't even think of Hammer in regards to any of these changes.
Yeah, Ty-Cuss is down, of course. Uther's down, which is kind of funny, but I would expect that's a very similar problem. Lots of people looking for new types of CC to bring along with no extra CC on the tank. They go, can we get it in the support? Let's get a single-click stun. We'll get it back, guys. It'll be fine. And it falls a little flat.
Right. Absolutely. Not to mention, if you haven't been practicing your Uther, you might fail in that regard as well.
That too. Though I just love the guy.
I love Uther too, man. It feels good. It requires, I don't know. It requires a different mindset though.
It's a very old mindset. It's one that we talk about a lot here about picking your favorite person to carry on your team. You know, really being observant in that way, helping them be all they can. Every time I see Kerrigan, Illidan, Butcher, I'm just like, oh, this is what we used to do. Come on, guys. And they're like, let's get Rexxar. Let's get Lucio. He just needs a touch. Whatever that is. We've seen it now with Murky. You know, you give someone too much damage, Zarya as well, they can become a force. And suddenly an odd role is filled out.
I want Benediction is like earlier. Can we make Benediction an earlier pick so it becomes the Kael'thas healer?
Who needs to look good at 16 though.
He needs to activate a thing and then choose what what ability he's using off of it. Personally, I would just look for. I don't want my ghost trait anymore. Just give me Benediction as my trait.
I think that is a fantastic choice because why does a paladin turn into a ghost when he dies? That's a priest to me. But then again, I'm a WoW priest, so I'm going to defend my territory.
You are. That being said, Uther shows up a metric butt ton as a ghost in World of Warcraft. Just all the time. Every time you're on a paladin, you're just like, oh, what's that over my shoulder? Well, Matt, I'm dead.
How about this? You stay a ghost for the duration of your death, and if you select a hero, you can highlight a golden glow around one of their abilities. It doesn't do anything. It just suggests that they use it.
So Uther gets to be pushy?
Yeah, well, Matt, you should cast a stun now.
You get to be a tutorial hero. That's amazing. I want that. Not really. That sounds horrible. Sounds absolutely horrible. Although, man, I would have a good time with some rather mean people in chat.
Well, what about Beacon of Light? Like, that's something that exists in World of Warcraft, and my understanding is that whenever you heal anything, you get to heal yourself.
Yes. And again, I don't know if that's how it still works. I haven't. I can't stand Paladin healing in World of Warcraft. I haven't touched it since Lich King.
Well, it is extremely boring, and I'm sure people love it, just like I love Uther. So we all have different opinions.
I've heard it's gotten much better. I don't know how Beacon works now, but traditionally, Beacon, yes, that's exactly how it worked. You play whoever your Beacon target receives the effect of your heals on other targets.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so you're healing 2 people for the price of 1, basically.
There are options.
Yeah, and you can move it around. Obviously bearing cooldowns and other drawbacks. But it was a cool ability back in the day. No idea how it works now, but something of that nature would be really cool. I don't know how it would work in a game like Heroes of the Storm. Does it work like map wide? If I beacon you and I go bottom, can I heal the Arthas in front of me to heal your Anubarak top lane? That seems a little strong.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. Although it is also a very unique way to think of a global hero, right? The hero's not there, but you're affecting something across the map. So maybe,
Guys, solo bot Uther. It works out. I'll heal from here.
So he just heals himself and it goes on.
Yeah, you just heal the lane minions with the beacon elsewhere. Because you still can. Like, people forget that, but sometimes you're solo laning on Morales while someone waits to get down there, and you heal a minion to tank it out for you.
That's what I do on Tyrande, because it's like I'm min-maxing my Tyrande heals. Like, I should never cast this on myself. But anyways, that's good and silly. Let's move on. Let's move on from the balance patch. Tomorrow, Kyle, we are, as always, we record this on a Thursday because it's our schedule. That's when we record things. However, that means in a week's time we'll be talking about a week's old news of a new hero reveal, because tomorrow at IEM Katowice, if I am pronouncing that correctly, where the Western Clash is being held, a new hero is being revealed, and it's already been teased on the official Blizz Heroes Twitter account. Something is warping in. It's definitely a Protoss something or other. So
yep, certainly StarCraft. It's got some hexagons to it, which is kind of interesting. A summoning circle of some kind, so not a dead giveaway.
Pylon, please.
Be a tiny pylon.
Probe.
Lots of people are looking at the guy we were talking about last week. Was it Cataracts? Carex?
Catarax is...
Yeah, Cataracts.
No. That's... No.
I don't know. He's a bit of a minor character.
It's Kyvax, isn't it?
It's like when you get young Link. But hey, it could be Phoenix. I mean, I think that's what we're hoping for. Or the Probe, like you were saying.
Oh, God, I can't remember the guy's name. It's Carax.
Yeah.
Kyvax is a CM.
Good time.
If I'm remembering correctly. Carax, yeah. But I want a Probe. If it's anything other than no, okay. Again, as I said last week, Carax, if he is a builder, will excite me. I want to build things. I'd rather do it as a Probe than a Protoss, but it's fine. It's fine. So, quick match queues, Kyle. The queue times have been decreased. They came out and said that in general they've been reduced by about 50 to 75%, and that this has actually been in since the Lucio patch.
I've noticed.
Yeah, I was thinking at the time, because I was playing Lucio day one in quick match and getting into games relatively quickly. Apparently, if I had been playing any other hero, I'd be getting in almost, I guess, instantly, because I was playing the new hero. But what they did is they made a fix. They said that previously the matchmaker would actually hold players from getting a match until the players who had been waiting the longest found a game. And that with some careful testing, it was determined that players in normal skill ranges were able to easily find a game without having to hold others. So these players will now be released and able to quickly find another match that suits them.
That's good. I could see how that would become a problem as some grandmaster quick match MMR guy loads up to have a good time, and everyone's stuck in line behind him.
Yeah. I'm very happy about this, especially since I've been playing a lot of quick match lately.
It's an odd battlefield at the moment. We definitely see the highest population in quick match. Next would be unranked draft, and then finally Hero League and Team League, even smaller thereon. It is mid-season. We're starting to come to the end, though, so we can expect those to fill back up a little bit with the tryhards coming in, trying to get their mounts at the last moment, but it's tough to mine for points with that long wait time when a perfectly good and actually very healthy unranked draft mode is available.
Yeah, I enjoy that as well. I mean, at what point, Kyle, and I'm not trying to divert you in a mini strategy segment, but we got a tweet, I think last week, that was, hey, how do you guys practice? And you said for the most part, quick match. At what point do you think unranked draft is more helpful practice than quick match?
It really depends on the type of hero you're working on. If you want to play Murky, Nazebo, even Zul Jin, if it has a self-heal, if it's a specialist that can take camps, you can make a summon, you're pretty good to figure that out in quick match. And a lot of those heroes are going to be the nuance of knowing who you can 1v1, how hard you can push versus someone, what you can get done when you see people in the bottom, what that boss is capable of as you push with it, as you leave it alone. Great lessons, all can be done there in quick match. In fact, the brawls can be a great way to learn one particular map. If you're struggling on Tomb of the Spider Queen, yes, you have to play a mage this coming week, but give it a shot. Unranked for me, though, is where you're going to do any tanking. That's not just for fun, like Artanis or Tyrael can give a lot of support to people around him, even sort of make up for that role. Medivh being a sort of support, quick matchy thing, that's fine. But if you're going to work on something like Malfurion, I'd say then you got to get drafting because you're thinking about what sort of healer you might take, and those are going to be your options. You're not going to learn drafting. You're not going to learn map-specific drafting if you're not actually going through that process. And this week I did engage in a lot of unranked draft because I came back from vacation and a lot had changed. And then a whole patch came in, getting rid of what was previously my main for now. Not because he's nerfed to hell and back, but it's going to take some time. Meanwhile, I was having a lot of fun with Zul Jin and Zagara, so I took that into Hero League this week, and I'm darn happy to report that I finally had the winning streak that broke my personal adjustment ranking out of the negative. So I'm on my way back up.
Nice, very nice. You did it with Zagara. Holy goodness gracious me, Kyle.
Right, it's old, but it puts you in the mindset for Nazebo too, and you're really starting to think about what you're picking for the map at that point, which is going to be our strategy section today.
Yes, it is. Beautiful, beautiful segue. But before we jump on that segue and right into the strategy segment, let's thank our patrons supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. And on this episode specifically, thank you to Kevin P., Matt P., Corey MD, Eric S., Cannon 1002, 001010001 is all I want to do now. Nathan J., Jeremy R., a.k.a. Twammy, and Matthew P. That is the coolest spelling of Matthew, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, I have ever seen, by the way. And I would also like to remind our patrons that it's a new month, and we have received a new streak of declines. So if for whatever reason your payment information has changed, consider going over to Patreon and updating your payment info, because it isn't just affecting us, it's affecting any other creators that you support. So.
Also, coming up, end of the season, as we mentioned, there's going to be some sort of Team League event. Be on the watch for that.
Yes. It'll be a Team League night, which is open to everyone, but we always favor patrons first. So check it out, patreon.com/ITN if you dig the show and want to support us. Now, let's talk about picking for the map.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? That seems generous.
Impressive work, hero. I think you're ready for more.
Why, thank you, Uther. So, Kyle, earlier this week, on the official Heroes of the Storm site, they put up the HGC viewer drafting guide.
And it's a great read.
It is.
Everyone should check it out.
Surprisingly, right? Like we don't.
Actually, yeah. That's an important thing to say too. That the company itself put out one of the superior articles about their own event.
Yeah, and it's not I don't want anyone to think I'm taking a dig at Blizzard either. It's just that we don't usually if you're trying to think of how to min-max your play, how to really get good, we don't usually go to the official websites for that type of information.
And this was presented as a guide so viewers at home could enjoy the draft process more and be thinking to themselves, why would they go Varian so early? What is that Ragnaros for, and why does it mean Malfurion is good now? And they gave some insight as to why that works, but when you sort of dissect it, what they really did was write an excellent article on strategy and how you at home should be drafting, depending on where your pick is in line, as well as what the map is, most importantly. Yeah.
So I on our little bullet list, I said from HGC to solo queue, picking for the map, and I think that's going to be the through line through this because it's something we bring up on the show all the time, which is, Kyle, how do you take the knowledge you soak up from watching esports, in this case Heroes of the Storm, and actually apply it to your games at home? And in this case, how do we apply this to drafting?
So we definitely need to do the big caveat, the it depends rainbow across the sky here. Anything we say as a map pick today is only as good as you are actually at the hero. Don't be seduced by win rates if you can't play the hero. It doesn't matter at that point. You're better on Butcher for no reason but you love him. And I'd rather have you on him than Tassadar because it's a first pick, right? So always keep those things in mind. But one of the things that was really interesting about this article to me was they brought up poking as one of the primary things you have to be concerned about based on the map when building a comp. And that's not something I've really figured or thought of before, because we're always talking about having just enough damage. And in the past, that was a very real thing. We're also looking at a battlefield with this most recent patch that removes very obvious first picks or really open picks. So getting enough damage on your team is still something we need to be concerned with. We can't go Leeming Chromie, not because that is enough damage, but there's not enough safe connecting damage that is going to be reliable in that case. Next in line, we were concerned about body. Did you go Chromie Nova? Well, there's no one really to stand on the point anymore. There's not enough health pool across the team to actually win the onset of a fight. So don't get pigeonholed in that. CC, you got to have some CC on the team. You pick up a couple of guys, you get a Samuro. Well, now we really need to make sure that we get that Muradin instead of someone else who doesn't have a nice something hold it down kind of play style. Lane clear is something that Dreadnought is always harping on, and it's something we've only just begun. As funny as that is, such a huge part of the game, just begun to understand that we need, particularly on Tomb of the Spider Queen, enough AoE damage to deal with this huge pile of stuff coming our way. Gul'dan does a good job, Jaina, Kael'thas. There's other options as well, but we've all been in that situation where you think you're the pro Vala, and you're facing down 2 lanes worth of minions, and you're making no progress. Multi-shots out, and you're done. Same thing happens with Raynor. Are you going to use Hyperion? No, we drafted wrong.
All very good points. Is it okay if we return to poking real quick? Because it's one of my favorite roles to play. I like playing heroes that can poke.
Absolutely, and that's something we're now considering on top of this. Varying your damage types, auto attack, spell damage. Yeah, let's make sure we're not all one so they just don't go Johanna and blind the whole team and there's nothing happening. But poking, I know I'm probably more excited than most people about this, but it's a really cool concept on something like Cursed Hollow. And you need it to interrupt the turn-in.
Yeah.
And think about zone control. We think about having body in the spells, and it's just such a simple concept, but it's wildly important. And instead of going something like Zeratul, you go Thrall instead, because you lack that distant interrupt.
Yeah. Same thing goes for maps like Dragonshire as well. So I'm a big Li Ming fan for this very reason. I've also been trying to brush up my Chromie, but I'm so bad at landing those Qs. But this is the exact reason I dig I dig being annoying, and I don't know what that says about me. But and I've also noticed, like, if you're playing one of these poke heroes and you end up in one of those quick match games where the opposing team is just kind of doing that dance, but they're not committing, but they're not splitting because they're deathballing. Cool, just soften them up. And if they've got a healer, so be it. Drain the healer's mana.
It's a great way to deal with certain kinds of healers, and with something like medic, poke is often what wins it out. Not because she can't heal it. They're going to be small increments of damage sort of raining on the back line, but as medic touches up 2 or 3 in a row because the lightning bounced over everybody, now she's half, and then she's out, and you move in after that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, granted, against those type of like death ball comps when they're really trying to turtle, there's a part of me that would just rather go like Zagara and like split push to my heart's content and just have Niduses everywhere. That's fun too. But poking is another way of thinking of just trying to win the long game.
It's an observation you can make for your team when you see the lane clear covered. But, before you get to 20, Flame Strike doesn't have that big of a range. You still might consider, with a Kael'thas, taking an additional ranged spellcaster, or someone with a ranged spell like Thrall that we talked about, just to make sure you can do an interrupt on these key maps.
Yeah.
Something else they, of course, brought up was the pros are going to ban or draft certain heroes just completely dependent on the map. And that's a good philosophy. Ban Kerrigan. Sure, we're not going to do that at home. It's almost silly because you're just throwing the dice there and say, is someone good on the first pick's a Kerrigan? Probably not. It's not. It doesn't exist in most cases.
Yes.
But a Sylvanas is something that was really powerful in the past, and a lot of what I might even call legacy players still have very good Sylvanases. I don't think there's a lot of, well, there could be. I mean, it's a Warcraft hero. She's popular, but it feels like she's lost some of her edge just by getting banned out forever on her key maps. But you need to be aware of those things, like Haunted Mines. Always a chance. Battlefield of Eternity. You ever have a 7-minute loss on Battlefield of Eternity? You might get one against Sylvanas.
Yeah, all very good points. And a hero that isn't, I feel like, for us at home, isn't banned a lot and isn't highly contested, and a hero that you can actually go and practice, become good with, and may actually be able to draft on these battlegrounds.
Being ready for that is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
Hero priority was the next thing they talked about. This was for the pro scene, describing what sort of heroes you will see picked up in the early phases of the draft and why. And this is something important to note for us at home as well. There are a handful of heroes that don't give away a strategy. Illidan, probably one of the biggest offenders when it comes to giving away what's up. If you first pick Illidan, well, there goes your Tassadar, there goes the ETC, and everything you thought that was going to make that work.
Yeah, you picked up your hand at the table and you just started giggling. Except in this version of poker, they can remove cards from your hand after you start giggling.
Right. So they suggest a number of heroes. Malfurion, ETC, Ty-Cuss, well, they'll be playing on the old version, but still, could be that way. Ragnaros, Li Ming, Vala, Rhaegar, Falstad, Varian, and Zeratul. Some of those can be a little scary. You look at Li Ming's current win rate and you go, are you serious? But the key thing about them is they're not automatically shut down by a single pick. And they leave the rest of the team open to get whatever they want. Ideally, what complements that.
Yeah. Also, watch HGC. It should be no surprise that Li Ming is being picked. Some of the best plays that I've seen have been on Li Ming's. Resets are disgusting.
They are, and they use them there, and I don't think we utilize them as much at home, of course.
No, we do not. A lot of times I just look real fancy and no one secures the kill.
But everything else after those initial picks, those things that are map specific, not going to give away the team comp, or just something, this is for you guys at home, that you're just darn good at and you're going to bring because you know exactly why you're doing it on the map. That's the key area. If you're in bronze and you're feeling like, I can't get these guys to work together, just pick exactly what you know for the map and do your job. And that gravity that you have spinning around yourself is just going to make everyone either deathball on top of you because you look like you know what you're doing, or you'll do everything a little faster. You know that on Jaina exactly how to clear a lane in 2 seconds. It's not necessarily a hard thought, but hey, that's 2 seconds less than the other guy. And that's 2 seconds sooner you made it to the objective. And that's 2 seconds sooner you have the next blizzard. And overall the game, you cast more blizzards per game. And you have a higher DPS than anyone else. those sort of little nuances that you understand are going to be how you eke it out. But we pick an order in Hero League, and once they've made those initial decisions, start backing them up with what you know is good. Certain characters like things held very still for them. We're talking here about things like Ragnaros, who does Sulfurous Smash. He's probably not going to hit it, particularly your Hero League buddy isn't going to hit it. Let's give him a root. Let's give him maybe Azul Jin, if that's, or Azul in that case, and give him a Bone Prison to follow up on.
Yeah, absolutely. Azul, character I don't see a lot of. He's still very effective. It's one of those heroes that you are gifted with. That, like Kyle, you said, just because you like him, it's a good one to just pull out of your bag of tricks, because a lot of people aren't facing him right now and don't know how to deal with him.
For the pro scene, there are things that you probably will never do. Like in the pros, the second you see Falstad, they're going for ETC. Why? That's in our heads. That'd be Mighty Gust and Mosh. What a horrible thought. You're going to ruin each other. In all actuality, they Mighty Gust things into sidewalls, and then ETC power slides the whole team and locks them down. It's a very effective strategy. So some things you don't run home with after watching them.
Right. That takes a certain level of finesse, a certain level of talking to your teammates in real time.
So think about your maps. I encourage everybody to read this article, first of all, because it will give you some insight into what you're watching and make it more enjoyable if you're not familiar with drafting. But second, you like doodling, right? Everyone likes doodling. Write down every single map name on a piece of paper and write 3 heroes next to them of exactly what you know what to do on that map. Whether it's Rexxar and Braxis, and you're just going to hold that top point to the end of days. That's enough. Knowing exactly what you can do. Warhead Junction, for me, the key figuring out that one was 1v1s. They're happening all the time. And Zul'jin is an excellent 1v1er, so I've been taking him there. He's not global. It doesn't make sense in an esports kind of way, but it was just merely I can hold my ground. And that's enough for me. Zagara and Blackheart's Bay, as we talked about, too. It's old. I feel like an old man bringing out the strategy. Hey, have you seen this before, kids? But they haven't. And it's great.
I'm sorry you broke me with that. This all really good points, man. If I could pile on a feeling of goodwill, even if you pull out that Post-it and you do exactly what Kyle said, and you write down this battlegrounds, you write down your three picks, and you you end up on one of those battlegrounds. You look at your 3 picks, and somehow you just don't get any of them. Get excited because you get to just comfort pick at this point. You get to just take something. You're like, it's not a map pick, but I'm good with this hero.
And that's how I feel about Cursed Hollow right now. There's a lot going on that map. It's kind of a mix of the extremes of them all. So just pick what you're best at.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing cute.
Nope. And you know what? You know what I'm going to do on Cursed Hollow from now on? Because I'm just accepting. I'm accepting that I don't know how to Ty-Cuss right now, and it's time to reach deep down into my comfort picks. And you know what I'm doing, Cursed Hollow? I'm just going to Zagara. And you're never going to get that tribute because you're going to be being eaten by roaches the entire time.
She's real good.
And I'm going to see everyone trying to flank me. And that means you jerk little murky. I'm going to see you coming. And I shouldn't because your slime is on a short cooldown and you should be able to clear my creep. But
yes, the reason Zagara is up right now is because Murky's on the out. She did not perform well last week.
Right. So, very, very awesome strategy segment you brought today, Kyle, man. I wasn't very talkative because I was just sitting back and listening.
It's an empowering kind of thing, which is exciting. And it means that we can start to, at least for me on a personal level, move away from the confusion that has existed this entire season with our new maps and all the changes that are constantly coming through. Some heroes will fall off that roster, but you got 2 left on there, and you'll work to put another 3rd back on that list.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I really don't know. Again, I feel like I just got to a point where I figured out my roster, and it's been moved around quite a bit. A bunch of cups have been thrown on top of all my heroes. They shifted it around and told me to find them.
I'd be excited to see you get more into variant now, and in like a pure multi-class kind of way.
Like, what do we need? Like not going into a battleground knowing how I'm going to spec them.
Exactly.
That excites me personally a lot. But that being said, I need some heroes where I know exactly what I'm doing when I'm going to the battleground.
That is very important.
But that freedom on that one specific hero excites me quite a bit.
It's nice. Great early pick.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Poke, hey, Ty-Cuss got a lot, knocked down a lot this week. It didn't get touched. That frag grenade.
That's true.
Keep people off.
Simple way. You'll still get it done.
Yep, keep people off the tribute with that. There you go. All right, let's wrap this up with some emails.
Darkness stopped calling.
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
Okay, tell them I'm not here.
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. Spencer writes in and says, lately I was also inspired by esports compositions and mechanical play. Like you had with Zeratul, I'm assuming he's talking to me, I recently tried Falstad again. I played him early on in the game's life and determined that his playstyle was not for me. As a ranged assassin-oriented player, I have master skins for Nova, Raynor, and Ty-Cuss, but for whatever reason despised Falstad until now. I don't know if it was his kit, his squishiness, or my lack of global prowess. Whatever it was, I was playing a bad Falstad. It's easily been a year since I've last played him. Watching the teams from HGC use him really inspired me, especially with Mighty Gust. The risk reward you get from flying behind the enemy team and pushing them into your own is hilarious. Long story short, I have extended my ranged assassin roster, thus growing my available toolset for Hero League. I felt the similarities from our stories and thought it was worth a share. Don't be afraid to revisit a hero that we failed with in the past. Oh, this just warms the cockles of my heart.
I'm curious to know how Zeratul's continuing for you.
I've been distracted.
Fair enough.
The Heroes Charity Brawl played Zagara once just because it was... we gamed the system, actually. We gamed the system on the first Next Jeopardy round because we were like, well, we still have to play an actual game here, and we break for question rounds, so why don't we just invest in lane push so our lanes are destroying them while we stopped for questions?
Well done.
And it worked out very well. Also went Maw for the team fight that happens after every round of questions, and that also really worked out.
That's true.
And realized that I still know how to play Zagara in my sleep. So it's been long enough. So I've been a little distracted with her, and then obviously trying the changes out this week, specifically with Varian, Murky, and Ty-Cuss.
Fair enough. We talk a lot about how heroes are sort of interwoven and connected, and if you become a really good Kerrigan, you might just be a really amazing Alarak, or you become a really good Thrall, you might be really good at Alarak. Zeratul, when you get good at him, you really do start to understand what Brightwing with Emerald Wind and what Mighty Gust on Falstad is capable of. You start really picturing, you become better at Mosh Pit because you need people in range to act on what you do. You become okay with using rather long cooldowns and things that can absolutely win a team fight or win the game to just save yourself. Even if it's a 100-second Void Prison, that's okay in the late game as well. And working through those decision-making processes does make you a better player. And certainly it's awesome that Spencer was watching the HGC and got that information from there as well. Falstad's such a weird one. Constantly fought over in every region just about in the HGC, but not looking well at all in our own hot slogs win rates.
No. And I think he's a hot, it's like a, can we coin a new phrase? Can we talk about like coordination cap instead of skill cap? I feel like Falstad is a high coordination capped hero. It takes a lot of coordination to squeeze out as much as you want from that particular hero.
I think you are correct if we're even levels, and certainly behind. But if I could just broadcast a tip to every Falstad, the wins don't work when you're 2 levels down. That fly was sweet, man. I'm flattered that you thought our entire team could catch their whole 2-level up team with our faces. But it's not going to work out. And being 2 levels up means you get to be really stupid often, and Varian gets to charge forward. Diablo gets to do a charge and then a pickup. Now he's standing in the middle of the enemy team. He should be dead. He's 2 levels up. It's fine. He got a snag for us now. And I feel like that's one of the big things holding back lower league players is you have to constantly check that XP bar and make sure that what you're doing is okay for the situation. And playing safe is a great term, but it's no more fantastic than Focus Morales.
All very good points. Well, our next email comes to us from Hugs. That's the name, although I wouldn't, I'll take a hug. That's fine. I'm fine with hugs. And has a couple questions. One, what are a few heroes you haven't seen in a long time, and what are a few ways you think Blizzard could make them more playable? I should have prepared for this better.
Well, we already talked about Uther a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Never mind. I totally blew the hero I would have mentioned.
That's certainly one that we're both passionate about seeing. And Cho'Gall's been falling flat on his face for a while. I'm really surprised there's no armor yet involved in that situation.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Will just be a grumpy grump about Stitches. I've been battling Pudge since I was 15, and I'm perfectly fine with him not being part of the main meta.
No, he's not. And every time lately when I see his Stitches, they're good. And that's cool.
I don't need that encouraged by any means.
It would have been murky, but I like where he's at after the nerf.
Right? And that's awesome that we're this tentative about who we haven't seen in a while. I'd even maybe say Lunara, but I don't want her to change. I think she's extremely powerful as is. Ariel and Toe maybe in certain comps. And that's the world we're moving through. And that's what this patch this week was all about, was getting rid of our early picks. And yes, we'll probably see more of the characters we named earlier, Malfurions, Valas, ETCs.
You know what? I think my other answer is Alarak. I do actually see him, at least in quick match, quite a bit. But he seems horribly ineffective.
He's a lot of work. And other characters can do what he does easier.
Yes. And he also just feels kind of clunky.
Yeah. I think when you really get down to his Hero League issues, it's that what he does isn't fun and easy for everybody else. When you're pushing people and you're getting sweet silences, those are things that feel rewarding to Alarak, but they still limp away in the end. Whereas just a thrall root with the wolf just means everyone can pile on. And I think we run into that same problem in our Hero League with Gul'dan, which corruption is kind of sneaky. And we never really follow it up because we're not entirely sure it was cast in the first place. Something I've done recently is started paying attention and giving corruption the weight of Blizzard and making sure it's out before I do a straight line engage on a Gul'dan. But how many of us really gave it that headspace when Flame Strike goes wah and the Blizzard comes down heavy? It's easy. And it's fun to follow those up.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I don't know. Gul'dan he might be more subtle, but I think he's plenty effective, and I think we're seeing enough of him that we know what to do with a Gul'dan, even if it's not as much of a rallying cry when his abilities go off. There's something about Alarak. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about Alarak that I think needs a sprucing up. But other than that, Uther, please. I want to take Uther, and I want my team to be like, hell yeah.
Let's mess him up.
Yeah, not, okay, Grandpa. Good to see you got off your rocker today.
Nice master skin. You get that 2 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the emo kid fan showing up to a dubstep concert.
Oh, and no less, then they walk up to you and put like a Lucio birthday hat on you, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This isn't me.
Don't get me started. Lucio even actually plays into the really bad analogy I just made almost too directly.
Right.
Too close to home, Kyle. Too close to home. So. Anyways,
I feel Rhaegar. Yeah. I know he's fantastic.
Rhaegar bores me, man. I'm bored by Rhaegar now. I don't want to play him.
There's people who make him work, make him dance, and they're biting those butts, and I love them. And they solo lanes, and they win Dragon Shines by themselves, and I'm just like, you amazing Master Skin man. Keep playing so I don't have to.
Yeah, please. That is the hero. I'm glad that other people dig him because I don't like playing him. It's not for me. I loved him when he first came out, and just I'm done. He just feels like old and busted.
I think that's a lot of the sort of power creep, or the fun creep, not really power creep.
Yeah.
Turning into a Ghost Wolf on release of this game was really fun.
But then why do I still enjoy playing Uther?
I don't know. We're just weird like that, man.
This is getting very personal, by the way.
I'm like, someday, dude, we'll hang out again.
Yeah, this is getting extremely personal, but hey, I feel like this is a personal question. Yeah. Anyway, Hugs' second question was, I'm a little bit of a noob, and my favorite heroes are Kerrigan for her combos, and Alarak, who moves people into bad positions then punishes them for having bad positioning. I'm wondering what talent picks I should go for as Kerrigan. I currently go Impaling Blades, and Alarak I go Telekinesis.
So, your biggest problem getting into Kerrigan is going to be your own survivability. And not so much that you need to pay attention if you're quick matching and if you have a support, you play different. That's good advice. But she has the same issues that Illidan has. If objectives ring, it's curse time in the top, and you take any damage on the way there, it's going to cost resources from your team to get you back to full. Whether it's your well, which is now gone for the duration of that tribute fight. It could take a portion of Morales' mana, and she shows up missing that mana now. You're late to the objective because you hearth. These are the things that keep those sort of heroes way, way down, and why it can often be easier to play Thrall and even Zul Jin or Raynor, because you know you have something on your kit that gives you survivability. So, for now, and leak off of this as you have enough support and tanks, pick just about most of the Ravage towns. You're going to want Siphoning Impact at level 1. Sharpened Blades is really cool. That's higher damage, but Siphoning Impact is 10% of your health. Whenever you kill anything, that's a lane. There's 7 lane minions with an orb in there, and you can leap with the resets to every single one. Get yourself 70% health back or 90% health back. You're going to be in a great spot. Then when you notice you have Morales, well, will Morales be healing you all the time? Maybe not. Maybe still go this. You got Morales and Lily on your team. Okay. Just go all damage. You're going to get taken care of.
It's a really good point, and something I'm glad you bring up all the time. You bring up specking depending on your comp. And I also like that you bring up, there's one support. Maybe they won't heal you. The problem is that this is a level 1 talent, and how can you really make that call even at the beginning of a game?
You can't, but it just means that no matter what happens, no matter how far away that healer is, or if she's out of mana, you still have a way to go into lane for a little bit and come back with health for the objective.
All very good points. What about going to telekinesis build on Mr. Alarak, which is actually not the most helpful thing to tell us because there's every level there's a telekinesis talent, there's more than one.
Right, if you're selecting many of these pictures, that's fine too, because your other force levels are still your damage. Your main bread and butter on Alarak is just picking the most decent target on your lightning. He's got okay talent diversity, but really there's kind of one spec that everyone goes. You won't make a huge error by going whatever you want through this. Just make sure that every time you cast that lightning surge, it is on the most distant target, because you hit everything between you and that cast target, which is going to be important for stacks and quests when you eventually decide to sort of take off the training wheels and start questing more. And also means you're going to have greater health returned to you when you hit those multiple heroes.
Other than that, just join me in hoping that they spruce up Alarak soon.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really cool stuff in here, too, that I'd love to see taken advantage of, like Pure Malice. Every time a hero dies around you, you gain ability power. Like Murky Alarak, best friends forever, but it's level 13. There's other better talents there at the moment. But you've faced a good Alarak, right, Garrett? I mean, they're scary.
They are. Like when you come up against a good one, it's terrifying. But right now, I'm not coming up against many talented Alarak players.
And I'm really convinced that there are no bad Alaraks and there are no bad Illidan's or Kerrigans. They're all the same people. They're just in certain comps or certain maps. That's not a bad Kerrigan. She's great with a different comp on a different map. We all look like that on Illidan when we don't have enough support.
Yep, absolutely. And Alarak, like it's noticeable, right? It's noticeable if you are not playing him correctly. Whereas Thrall, you can play him poorly and still get things done.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
That's Thrall's part. That's the Thrall player base's problem, is that they've given me too high of expectations whenever I see a bad Thrall. What's going on here?
Yeah, and when I'm bringing up Alarak because Hugs asked. What I'm not asking for is for them to make every hero in the game easy to execute on.
Right.
It's not what I want. But if you are asking me, who am I not seeing a lot of, and who do you think maybe could use a little love? Alarak and Uther, hand in hand, not agreeing on any life views.
No, but having a good time.
Exactly. So, thank you for your emails. And again, folks, send them to itncast@gmail.com. That is going to do it for this episode. Thank you all for listening. I am actually surprised that we got through it as quickly as we did. As always, we're supported by our badass patrons over at patreon.com/ITN. We really appreciate the support, everyone. And if you enjoy Into the Nexus, patreon.com/ITN is the best way to support us. So head on over there and consider supporting. Otherwise, keep those iTunes reviews coming. Check out amove.tv for the entire back catalog of Into the Nexus episodes, as well as many other fine podcasts. Huge thanks to our Patreon producers, Declan H. and Cheesy Bob. You can get an Into the Nexus t-shirt over at shirts.amove.tv, or you can pick up custom etched glassware over at etched.amove.tv. Our Twitter account is at ITNcast, and a huge thanks to Gorath, not only for having a large hand in orchestrating an amazing charity event over the weekend, but also for doing our intro music. And thank you to BrianGriffithMusic.com for our outro music. Go check their work out. You can follow Kyle when he tells you exactly where to.
You can follow me on Twitter at Kyle Fergusson, 2 S's in Fergusson. But this week, I want you to check out kylefergusson.com/L2P, Learn to Play. And I have reopened my coaching shop. I'm available for new students once again. But I want you to check out this particular link because I have compiled at least my favorite learning videos that I've made. And there's about 4 of them here, from supporting bronze, learning how to support in the first place, that Pally Pals video I did with John Jagger last week, fingers, camera, and quick casting, which will tell you all about how to set those settings, where your hand should be on the keyboard actually to execute these things, and then, of course, the video on how to stutter step. All free information available that you should know about.
Badass. I mean, dude, you really do put out phenomenal content. You do good by the Heroes community, in my opinion. So, folks, if you aren't following Kyle's personal work, you owe it to yourself to go and do so. KyleFergusson.com. Check it out. And if you just have room for a random jackass in your life, check me out. I'm on Twitter at Garrett Art. All of the other podcasts I do can be found at amove.tv. We just posted a brand new episode of Let's Talk About Star Wars. It's a once-a-month show. Granted, we missed February by a day. There'll be another episode in this March to make up for it.
There was one day less in February.
Yeah, it's annoying. There's more than one day less in February compared to other months. But yeah. Yeah, and if you haven't heard it before, it's a Star Wars podcast that I do with Tom Merritt and Jenny Josephson, where we literally just talk about Star Wars. It's super fun. Check it out. Give it a listen. Plenty of other shows over there as well. NoMoonArt.com is my graphic design portfolio. If you need a graphic designer, head on over to NoMoonArt.com. Check out my work, and if you would like, contact me right there on the website. That's going to do it for this episode. Kyle, as always, thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome, Garrett.
I just felt like being a little gentlemanly at the end. Like, good show, good show. Yes, I say. Good show, sir. And until next time, good luck and have fun.
Take care.